Welcome to Health+Tech, the podcast where we explore the law that applies at the intersection of healthcare and technology. Hosted by McGuire Woods, episodes feature healthcare innovators and updates on the laws that apply to digital health businesses.
Welcome to the Health+Tech podcast. I'm Kristen McDermott Woodrum, a healthcare partner in the Atlanta office of McGuire Woods. I'm joined by my partner, Holly Buckley, who is based in Chicago and chairs the McGuire Woods Healthcare Department. Holly and I lead the McGuire Woods Digital Health, Technology, and Innovation practice and are hosts of this Health+Tech podcast. Today, we are excited to welcome to the podcast Dr. Amrie Grammer, the co-founder, president, and chief scientific officer of AMPEL BioSolutions. AMPEL is a leading personalized precision medicine company developing tools to help patients improve their quality of life. AMPEL's genomic platform uses AI and machine learning to understand individual disease mechanisms and endotypes. The technology is being utilized to launch a portfolio of 10 plus clinical tests over the next 5 years to provide decision support for diseases that affect more than 50 million Americans. Welcome, Dr. Grammer.
Well, thanks so much. I'm thrilled to be here. I am the majority owner of AMPEL BioSolutions located in Charlottesville, Virginia. And we're all about providing information about the right drug for the right person at the right time.
Fantastic. We look forward to learning more. So to start, tell us more about yourself, your scientific interests, education, and scientific work, including at the National Institute of Health, and what led you to co-found AMPEL BioSolutions?
So I'm a scientific entrepreneur trained in basic science, first at the University of Virginia in chemistry and pharmacology, graduate work in immunology, a PhD in Dallas at UT Southwestern Medical Center. I was really fortunate to come of age as a scientist when the Human Genome Project was kicking off, and I got hired to run a lab in one of the institutes in the 2000s. That's really where I brought it all together. My career in autoimmune disease, adding on looking at dynamic RNA. And that led to the founding of AMPEL with my co-founder, Dr. Peter Lipsky, a physician scientist who was one of the directors of the intramural program in NIAMS at the time. We combined all of our expertise to be able to address all dynamic RNAs and to build a platform that is the basis for the clinical care tests. The first one is launching this year for lupus.
Dr. Grammer, we understand that AMPEL is a women-owned business. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
AMPEL is very proudly a woman-owned business with myself as the majority owner. And our first disease, lupus, more than 95% of the patients are women. You can appear with the disease anywhere from puberty to middle age. It happens earlier and in a more severe fashion for women of color. So we're very proud about our very solid base of bringing precision medicine and the right drug to the right person at the right time, starting with lupus.
As a precision medicine company, AMPEL is focused on improving human health through genomics and is focused on RNA as opposed to DNA. Can you tell us a little more about how this works?
So RNA is dynamic and it's a real-time measure of what's going on in every cell of your body. DNA is what you inherit. And what happens is when your cell gets a signal, I'm drinking coffee right now, and there are 20,000 RNAs or light switches that can be off and on in every cell of your body. This is trillions of pieces of information and requires a digital health approach to be able to make the tools to group all of those RNAs. We decided to do it by abnormal drug targets to be able to provide decision support to doctors and patients.
So maybe you could tell us a little bit more about the technology. We understand that AMPEL's genomic platform contains a lot of data and uses AI and machine learning. How does the technology power personalized precision medicine?
Great question. The way that we started was by looking at all 20,000 of those light switches that can be on or off. the RNAs. And still to this day, AMPEL is the only entity that does that. Other companies in the marketplace are focused on one disease or a few pathways. How does it actually work? We grouped all of those RNAs by what we wanted to predict. So cells, pathways, functions, what all the biologics are targeted to that you see on TV every night in advertising. We then used iterative predictive AI, which is fancy machine learning or statistics, doing test and validation sets to narrow in what is the minimal number of groups or drug targets that define a certain disease and that define the immune system and inflammation in general. So we narrowed it down to 200 groups that define the immune system and inflammation. Our first product, lupus, is 32 of those groups. Dermatology, our second product for psoriasis, scleroderma, eczema, and lupus is about 45. Very importantly, when we do all of our test and validation, we include samples from all ancestries, African American, Hispanic, Native American, European American, so that AMPEL's precision medicine tests will work for anyone.
Great. And how does this precision medicine solution or the solutions get actually to patients and clinicians with active issues? So how does the technology become utilized, if you will?
So AMPEL is 10 years old as of a few weeks ago, and we built the AMPEL genomic platform, the RNA analytic and predictive AI tools in-house. There's no in-licensing from anyone. And we go through different steps. One is proof of concept for a disease. Then we have pharma customers, anywhere from preclinical models to real-time enrichment of what are the patients that have the potential to respond to the drug being tested. That's part of our validation. Then we move into clinical care. That's what we're doing this year, launching lupus blood test, Lugene, into the clinical care market. We start with a clinical trial with high volume sites across the US. Many of them also have a concierge practice, and in addition are members of hospital systems or integrated delivery networks. So as of 2024, there'll be a multiple number of ways that lupus patients can access Lugene, the blood test that predicts flares, as well as decision support for what drug targets are abnormal, shortening the time, which right now is 5 years on average, of what is the drug that will stabilize a lupus patient and turn their disease into a livable chronic condition.
And just one follow-up question on lupus. Why did you start with lupus as your first disease state?
That's a great question, Holly. There are a couple different reasons. One is that when I was a graduate student in Dallas, I discovered something on the surface of B cells that turned out to be very important for driving autoantibodies. And it turned out that it was really key to lupus. In addition, my co-founder, Dr. Peter Lipsky, has spent his career and lifetime both in basic, translational, and clinical science trying to make a difference in the life of lupus patients. And so why did we decide to focus on lupus as a first product? Lupus is technically systemic lupus erythematosus, means it can affect every organ system of your body. So we looked through the lens of lupus, that we had a track record of understanding the science, to look at what's going on with the skin. That's led to the second product, Dermagene, to what's going on in cardiovascular. And we announced Cardiogene that we're in discussion for co-development or licensing partner now. Kidneys are something that people hear about in the popular media being associated with lupus. Selena Gomez was very public about her journey with lupus and how it affected her kidneys and the importance of getting very specific targeted therapy early in your diagnosis.
Thanks for that explanation. The science is fascinating and the clinical applications just unlimited, it seems. I am excited to hear you've celebrated your 10th anniversary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little more about your journey? How did you fund the R&D required to get to this point? Did everything go according to plans and the timelines you initially laid out, looking back at this 10-year journey?
So Dr. Peter Lipsky and myself, the co-founders of AMPEL, are both scientists, entrepreneurs. So we knew that we needed to build the technology from scratch. At that time, and still to this day, there's less than 50% coverage of all RNAs by the companies and academic institutions that are out there. So because of our strong scientific and physician scientist reputations, we were able to obtain support from different granting organizations, both public and private. That allowed us to build the initial tools that were ranking the drugs that might be the top priorities for lupus, both the drug targets and the drugs. With that, we then partnered with a variety of pharmaceutical companies to design and operationalize clinical trials in lupus. That generated revenue. And also we were able to generate the base of the validation samples needed to bring the clinical test to market. We started raising funds with investors in 2019, and we continue to do that. We're especially focused in digital health and bringing our first 3 products to market. Lugene to predict flares and best drug options for lupus. We expect to come to market this year. The second product, Dermagene, will be using use of funds for the regulatory CLIA validation and entering the marketplace. And our third product, which is Wellgene, that will be a quick turnaround, lower price test that assesses yes, no, is an individual in a low state of inflammation. Dr. Lee Hood, recently a fellow immunologist, has been talking about scientific wellness. And AMPEL's Wellgene blood test is just that. Also like to mention, since we're talking about digital health, that AMPEL has a mobile app that will be a companion with all of our blood and biopsy tests. The way that this was made was taking all the papers that everyone fills out when they go to the doctor's office, the patient-reported outcomes, and putting them into a mobile app that asks the questions over the span of a week. We tested that in a clinical trial in a way that we could tell answers to questions associated with a biological outcome or another cause, and then have made it into a commercial product. We expect to do the final testing of that next year.
That's really, really cool.
So in terms of the app, is that intended for consumers, kind of patients to use, or is that a clinician-based tool? And can you tell us a little bit more about how it works?
AMPEL's mobile app, and the first one to roll out, will be called LupPro, or Lupus Patient Reported Outcomes, is meant for optimal communication between patient and healthcare provider. So the model is the patient would be able to download the app for a low cost from the Google or Apple store. Their healthcare provider would give them a code to unlock it. And then as they're answering the questions every day, if the answer to the question indicates that a change in disease status may occur, an alert will go to the doctor and the patient. From the focus groups, the healthcare providers have indicated they may ask for a telemedicine visit or may order Lugene, the blood test, before the individual comes into the office. The idea is that AMPEL's mobile apps that are monitoring patient-reported outcomes with validated change and prediction of disease status will be a way to increase communication between doctor and patient, and also to get ahead of predicting flares.
Thanks for that explanation. So as you move into the next phase for AMPEL, what challenges lie ahead and how are you approaching them? For example, how are you working to get payment coverage for your tests, and how do you make sure your clinical decision support and testing is used by physicians in medical practice?
So I'll answer the first question initially and go on to reimbursement. So myself and my co-founder, Dr. Peter Lipsky, have deep relationships with physicians, scientists, patients, and the companies involved in all of these fields. We've taken what is called a medical affairs approach to being educated by physicians and patients, and also to inform them of the possibilities of AMPEL's technology. Those recommendations led to the bullet points that the Lugene report will address, which is that we have longitudinal data that predicts if someone is in a group with low likelihood of flare. If that's true, the patient is indicated to be stable, no change in medication is necessary. If not, you talked about endotypes at the beginning of the podcast, lupus and the papers coming out this fall, the universe is 8 subgroups. Scientists call these endotypes. Every endotype indicates that drug targets that are abnormal and thus what drugs may be predicted for patients in that group. The bottom line with lupus, and we've started this process in dermatology and other diseases, is involving all the stakeholders so that there's a clear understanding and AMPEL is meeting the everyday needs. Secondly, reimbursement is always a big question for any company. We started that process several years ago, working with experts that are familiar with the CMS, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services approach to reimbursement. We had our first meeting with them earlier this year. We're in the process of preparing the application, and we expect to receive reimbursement within the next few years. In the meantime, very typically in our field, AMPEL is rolling out Lugene, the blood test, in a clinical trial at high volume sites around the country that have a good mix of all ancestries, African American, Hispanic, Native American, European American. As I mentioned, AMPEL's worked hard, have publications that all of our blood and biopsy tests work for all peoples. Within those trials, there'll be some physicians that also are part of a hospital network or part of a concierge practice that may have rapid adoption even before reimbursement. One last point, as a company, we need to think about health economic value. And in lupus, there's a very clear economic value of the price of flares, both immediately, as well as the damage caused by flares far outweighs annual or more than annual screening by physicians using Lugene, the blood test, to predict flares before they happen and potentially adjust medication to stabilize a patient.
Thank you so much for that explanation. We understand you may be looking for co-development and licensing partnerships and arrangements. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and other arrangements you may be interested in?
So AMPEL's technology, AMPEL's genomic platform of dynamic RNA and predictive AI machine learning, over the last 18 months, AMPEL is validated across all disease areas. We're focused on lupus, dermatology, and wellness for our clinical care products, and we're in active discussions with co-development and licensing. Happy to talk with more entities in cardiology, nephrology, neurology, and a variety of other diseases, including prediction of the severe effect of infection. I just saw on the news yesterday that unfortunately the number of COVID infections is on the rise and is expected to keep rising throughout the fall. AMPEL has a technology to be able to detect the individuals that may experience a severe course of an infectious disease, including COVID, which is all about that the immune system just keeps going even after the virus is gone.
And Dr. Grammer, final question, it's one we like to ask all of our guests, but what are you most excited about over the next 3.5 years, and specifically in terms of scientific and technological advancements, and also for AMPEL?
So AMPEL BioSolutions, Dr. Peter Lipsky and myself had a vision more than 15 years ago to really actuate on the results of the Human Genome Project, which very few people know. The full sequence of the human genome was only completed last year. We took that mission very seriously to identify and group all 20,000 RNAs by potential drug target, and to be able to narrow down, really being at the forefront of our own algorithms of predictive AI, very different than natural language processing chatbot. Just as a side, predictive AI, to be able to tell what is a subgroup of drugs that may be right for an individual and across all diseases. We're at a dawn of medicine where it doesn't need to be a trial and error approach, that a blood or a biopsy test can be done to be able to tell what is abnormal in an individual, and really to be able to allow physicians to get a targeted therapy to their patients quickly to stabilize their disease and really increase quality of life.
Thank you. Dr. Grammer, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's just fascinating, the work that you've been doing, and to borrow your phrase, we're maybe at the dawn of medicine, and we're at the dawn of what AMPEL will go on to accomplish. And so congratulations on your successes so far, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future. This is the Health+Tech podcast, hosted by myself, Holly Buckley, and my partner, Kristen McDermott Woodrum. We look forward to hearing from you. If you have any guests you would like to see featured on our podcast, please reach out to either of us. Thank you so much.